Highway Point. For this week's Read and Reflect, I'm going to be reading from 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23. But before I read that verse, I'm going to provide a little context here. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, Paul is writing to the church in Corinth. And in chapter 10, he's talking to them about idolatry, and specifically about eating food that's been sacrificed to idols. And in this passage, he tells them not to eat food that has been sacrificed to idols. And then comes these verses. He says, "Do I mean then that food sacrificed to an idol is anything? Or that an idol is anything? No. But the sacrifices of pagans are offered to demons, not to God. And I do not want you to be participants with demons." So, of course, the question coming from those verses, you would think, okay, well, if food sacrificed to an idol isn't anything, why can't I do what I want? And so in our verse, 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 23, Paul says, I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. And then I'm going to read the next verse as well. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. So when I think about that verse, that phrase, I have the right to do anything, there's one pivotal word in there, one pivotal letter, and that's I. I have the right to do anything. It's a phrase that's very self-focused. And Paul seems to be trying to shift their focus here and trying to ask them, does this edify others? Do your actions edify others? You got to think beyond yourself. And we see that especially when he goes into verse 24. No one should seek their own good, but the good of others. And so he's concerned with, okay, sure, food sacrificed to idols, it isn't anything, but if somebody else sees you eating that food, could that be a stumbling block for them? So he wants to shift their focus on other people. But I think the application here isn't just related to food sacrificed to idols. Throughout the Bible, we're seeing, we're being told that we should look to the interest of others above our own. And I mean, even when you look at what the greatest commandment is, to love God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second greatest commandment is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. It's not, the greatest commandment is to love yourself and then love God and then love others. God's first, and then love your neighbor as yourself. So it's just incredibly important all through the Bible, this importance of looking to the interests of others. Just flows through all the passages. As I continue to think about this verse and application in my own life, as an attorney, a common complaint I hear from my clients is, well, it's my property. Why can't I do what I want with it? And then, I have to explain, well, when the use of your property starts to impact the health, the well-being, the enjoyment of other people, that's when we have a problem. I think about school dress codes. I may have a shirt that I like, that I want to wear. But if that shirt starts to impact, if it's harmful to others, or if it is a distraction in school, that's where a school dress code steps in and says, we got to think about others here. It's not just about the choices that you want to make. And so even if there aren't laws that restrict your use of your property, or there isn't a dress code, we still should be thinking about our decisions. How does my decision, even if it's something that makes me happy, how does this decision impact other people? And I love that in this passage, he's talking to them about eating food. This isn't some grand life-changing decision that Paul's talking to the Corinthians about. It's not, what kind of career are you going to go into? It's not where you're going to live, what house you're going to buy. It's a decision that we all make 3 times a day. What am I going to eat? I think it just goes to show the the extent to which we need to be considering the interests of others in even our normal everyday decisions. How are those decisions impacting other people? So my goal as I go throughout this week, my hope for you is that as we make even the simplest decisions in our lives, that we're thinking about others and how our decisions impact others and how we can put the edification of others first. So thank you, Waypoint friends. Have a great week.